You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needham. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Sharifah Hardie. She is host of the Roundtable Talk Show, as well as Ask Sharifah. She considers herself the queen in DIY business. She is an upstart all by herself back in the early 90s on how to make a website and marketing. And she built a business and an empire from that. She also plans on running for Senate in 2024. So I hope you enjoy our show. This episode of the Better 2 podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. An afternoon at the pool changed Wes's life. When he saw Jen, he knew she was his always and forever. Most nights, Wes spent pursuing his dream of landing a record deal. With Jen looking up at him, he knew nothing would stop him. His dream was fast becoming a reality, until Mason Langford entered their world. While Wes was living his dream, he lost his heart. Now he wondered if he'd ever get her back. Available now, Love is Worth Waiting For by DM Needham at most booksellers. Hi, Sharifah. How are you doing today?
I am excited to be on your show. I'm often the host, so I never really get to sit in the guest seat. So I'm enjoying it.
I know. See, this is how we met. We met on your Roundtable Talk Show, which is a really intriguing show, and I'm glad I got to be part of it, and I get to be part of it again. So I think that's a great opportunity for a lot of people to have an open discussion about a lot of different things.
Yes. It was a pleasure to meet you. We connected after the show through social media, and you're just an interesting person. So I said, I have to get on her show.
You're very intriguing as well. And it's like, I'm glad that you connected. And I know everybody's like, wow, are you guys just going to give high fives? No. We have serious things to talk about too. But Sharifah has the talk show is great. She considers herself the queen of DIY in business. But that wasn't always the case. You kind of had a path before you took over, I would say took control of your business life, that you kind of went from job to job to job.
Yes.
In some cases, because, I was in the hiring pool, we were always told in the 90s that, and personally, I have quite a few jobs on my resume as well, that you don't want to hire a job jumper. But the fact of the matter is, a job jumper is actually somebody that has a lot of different experience that they can implement. Yes. So tell us a little about your journey.
Oh, wow. You hit me with a lot at the beginning. That's wonderful. I like the way you think. I see you did your research with the queen of DIY in business. So that's wonderful. I have never considered myself a job hopper or job jumper. I think people may have considered me that way. When I wrote my first book, it's one of the things that I talked about where there was literally, and I didn't mention this in the book, I just shared the journey, but there was an argument with God. And people were like, yeah, how do you have an argument with God? And I was like, well, there was an argument where God told me that I want you to help people. And I was like, no, I don't want to help people. God was like, Sharifah, I want you to help people. And I'm like, God, have you met people? Have you seen people? Like, no, I'm good. I'll just go and get a job. And so I would go and get a job. And 8 times, I was laid off 8 times. And I would get literally to 6 months to the day I was hired, and I get perfect attendance awards. I would get employee of the month awards. I just received my evaluation, and it would be 100%. I'd be like, oh, this is the job for me. I'm going to be here forever. And then that 6-month mark hit, and I would be laid off again. I was never fired. And I was like, wow. And again, it was something in me, my calling, God saying, I want you to help people, because I built my first website in 1994.
Wow.
And when I built my first website, people said, oh, Sharifah, you have a website. Can you build my website? And then when I started marketing my website, people said, Sharifah, you're marketing your website. Can you help us market our websites? So I just kind of fell into the whole online marketing, online website design business. But I never wanted that to be my full-time job. I was still adamant that I was going to go and get a job. I always tell people there's nothing that says I love you like direct deposit, like knowing that that check is going to be available at a certain time, at a certain day. And you don't have that in the entrepreneurial world. You know, it doesn't really matter the amount of income. It usually fluctuates. And I don't like that, you know, fluctuation. But one of the things that happened, that I felt bad. So I definitely understand what you mean by the job job jumper, is that I felt like I was a job jumper. I felt like people would look at me as somebody who lacked commitment, who would not stay at a job for any period of time. And so I said, okay, I don't know what to do. Then I went for one job interview, and this gentleman, I'll never forget it. He was looking at my resume. He's like, wow, you have the resume of an engineer. And he was like, because you can do so many different things. And that's how I learned to look at the blessing and everything that I've been through, is because I was laid off from so many different jobs. I went to college to be an accountant, but I can build websites. I can do marketing. I can do PPC. I can network your computers. I can do customer service. I can book your reservations. I can do your technical support. Customer support is because of all those different experiences that I went through.
And see, that's the thing, you know, when I was doing the hiring, and it was for the insurance company, he's like, well, we don't want a person that's going to be a job jumper. But the fact of the matter, like in the insurance industry, you do jump jobs. At least back in the day, you would jump jobs because that's how you got promoted. That's how you got a salary increase. It wasn't necessarily that you weren't happy. It was, here's a better opportunity for me to expand my horizons for growth. And I actually, you know, I can sit here and look at my resume, and it's like, okay, yeah, I started at McDonald's and I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. And then, oh, wait, there was the graveyard shift of me working at a drinking straw factory. You know, you don't know that. And talking about security, I worked in television production, and it was an awesome job. It had an incredible paycheck. But then it came to, do you want something that's sustainable? Or do you want to have the risk of, oh my gosh, where's my next check coming from? Because working in the entertainment industry, it's never a set thing. It's as good as your next gig is.
Yes.
And that gets to be stressful. So how did you grow your business? Was it just word of mouth that people just kept gravitating towards you, and this is how you learned how to help people?
It wasn't just word of mouth, at least not initially. It was one little tweak that I made that, for lack of a better terms, changed the game. And when I started, I was doing marketing and website design. And I went to the Los Angeles Convention Center. They were having this huge convention. I did not have a booth. All I had was these little flyers in my hand. And I walked around. I tried to tell everybody, you know, I can design your website. I can do your marketing. And people literally scoffed. I love that word, scoffed. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, go away, little girl. Like, you don't even have a booth. You're not making any money. We're not going to talk to you. And I was like, I have to, you know, figure this out. And so I had been talking to so many different people, and they would always ask me about the internet and business and how do you start your own business? And that's how my brand Ask Sharifah began, because people were like, I don't know, Ask Sharifah. And so I'm like, you know what, this really makes for a really great show. And so back in 2009, I launched my first show. I've done so many different variations since then, but my first show was Ask Sharifah Radio. And so I did the same thing. About a year later, I went to this huge convention at the LA Convention Center, and I didn't tell people about the marketing. I didn't tell people about the website design. I told them, hey, I'm a talk show host. You're a business owner. I went around to all the little booths. You're an entrepreneur, you're an artist, you're creative. I love to have you as a guest on my show. And not only were people receptive to me, they would go out to other booths where they had friends, and they would tell everybody, oh, you got to meet Sharifah Hardie. Sharifah has a show and she'll help you and she'll help your business. And so then all of a sudden I had people lined up to speak with me. And I was like, this is kind of cool. And I use all of my shows to build my mailing list. That's what a lot of people don't understand. The money's in the mailing list, building your mailing list. If you aren't keeping the information for your clients, the people you talk to, and just building it, you're losing out. And so that's what I did. I used the radio show to build the mailing list, and I used the mailing list to offer different incentives to my clients, and those people, those individuals, and those individuals became my clients.
You know, and I have just learned something, because yeah, I have guests on my show, and I don't necessarily, I mean, it's in the applet that I use to sign up people, but I've never really marketed to get advertising or anything. So I've learned something.
Yes. That's why I do 5 shows a week. 5 guests per day. That's 25 new people a week, 100 people a month that I've added to my mailing list. And so that's why I don't mind not charging for the show, because they pay with their email address, which gives me access to send them offers and information and to get them back on the show.
Yeah. And I will say there was one guest I had that I worked with a PR firm, and the guest has a housewares product. So I started getting this houseware convention email asking me if I want their mailing list. And I'm like, no, I don't. Because it's not in my wheelhouse. That's why it's like, I don't want it. And the thing is, this is bad PR, because I've explained to them that I'm a podcaster. I do not deal with the hardware show. I don't need this. I've said it 5 times. I finally had to block them because they kept following up. So what do you want to do? So like, okay, either you're a bot or you're not listening.
Well, that's the exact reason why I'm not on LinkedIn. You know, prior to this, I was on another show and everybody was raving about LinkedIn. And I felt so bad because I'm like, I'm exact opposite. I don't like to be connected. I don't like all these messages. I don't like a lot of people contacting me. So if I'm a guest on the show, then I don't necessarily want you adding me to, if you're a guest on my show, I don't necessarily want you adding me to your mailing system, to your mailing list. But if you're a guest on my show, then you obviously have an interest in me. You have an interest in my shows. You have an interest in what I'm doing. So we already know there's a fit there. And so I want to follow up with things that are in the same genre that I already know that you're interested in. But many people already go ahead and subscribe me to their newsletter, even though they're guests on the show. And what I do is I read them and I look at it. I'll go, okay, is this Donna's email? Did Donna sign me up? Okay, well, I can't, unsubscribe from Donna. That's Donna. Yeah. But if it's somebody that I haven't built a relationship with, built a rapport with, and I'm definitely not interested in their products or services, I'll just politely unsubscribe. And that's why I don't mind contacting people, is because there's always an unsubscribe. You can always opt out. If you don't want the information, then okay. Now, I'll give you a little tidbit, which I'm pretty sure you know, Donna, because you're just Donna, like you're the amazing Donna. I think we're going to rename you. But
thanks.
People talk about spam. Spam was initially created based on AOL, because AOL charged you 10 cents, 5 cents per email. So if you had emailed a person 100 times, they literally had to pay out of their pockets for that email. So I'm not an advocate of spam, but I'm also a little bit more willing to reach out to people at this point, because if you're not interested, unsubscribe, go in a different direction. No harm, no foul.
Do you think that there is an overpopulation of newsletters, though?
No, I think that's just my opinion, and here's why. And that's a wonderful question. I love the way you think, amazing Donna. But that to me would be like saying there's too much information. And I really believe that knowledge is power, but we also have to be selective in the information that we allow into our bodies, into our systems, into our spirit, into our mind. So if it's not something that you resonate with, then absolutely go ahead and unsubscribe. My inbox is almost always empty. And people are like, how do you do that? I have like 20,000 emails in my inbox. And I'm like, I can't operate that. When an email comes in, I read it. Do I need to take an action? If not, it's deleted. If I do need to take an action, it will stay in my inbox as long as it takes for me to take that action, and then it's deleted. I have a team of people I work with, and they're the same way. Do not leave emails in my inbox, because that to me would be too much information, an oversaturation of newsletters, because it's just so much stuff.
Well, I started, when I started the podcast, I got a new email address, and it's like, okay, well, I should sign up for this because it's about podcasting, blah, blah, blah. And at a certain point, it's like my mailbox explodes now. And it's like, how in the world did I get here? Mm-hmm. And I remember being at the insurance job, and I was a supervisor. And if I was out sick for a day, or if I went on vacation, it was like, okay, the first 2 or 3 days, you're playing catch up because you have 5,000 emails. It's like, okay, so how am I going to get through that and plus do the rest of my job? And I think that's a big thing. Email, we used to have the whole run to the mailbox and get excited because you actually have something physical in your mailbox. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, we got an email. And it's not that the emails are really personable anymore. It's always here's something to buy. Here's something this, it's not the same as it used to be. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just, it's intriguing.
But you know what? Then you have an opportunity. That's the way I love to have a personal connection. And that's why people stay on my newsletter, is because the people know the name Sharifah Hardie. And I won't just say the brand, because we recognize brands. I'm saying people know Sharifah Hardie. The majority of the people that receive my newsletter, they're on my social media. We talk, we have conversations, we chat. People will say, Sharifah, I don't want to bother you because I know you're busy. And I'm like, I'm the most available person you will ever meet in the world. You call and I'm like, okay, let's talk. I love to communicate. I love to connect. So if it's just some random person and there's no connection, we don't have any type of business or personal relationship, then that's not somebody that is going to continue to be in my email, because there's somebody that's talking about something that I have absolutely no interest in. So one of the things I talk about is the art of non-attachment. I'm too good at the art of non-attachment. I don't like to get attached to things, because then you get stuck in them. And I'm someone who's been laid off, like I said, 8 times. I've been divorced twice. I've been homeless. I've lost everything I own but the clothes I physically had on my back. Everything else was gone. So I don't get attached to anything. You can move so much further. You can move so much faster, literally and figuratively, when you just learn to let go and clean house.
It's interesting because I pulled a card this morning from, I have a deck that was my husband's, and I always pull cards, and the card that came up first was detach.
Oh, yes. See?
Yes.
See?
Yes.
We right there.
Yes. So, I mean, here we are talking about that. So I'm slightly amused by that. And the one thing I would say is, sometimes in the corporate America, so this is why I'm saying, in a way, it's good that you weren't necessarily pushed into those positions, because I remember as a supervisor, I had all these tasks, and I was one of the few supervisors that was like, if my team had a question, I didn't care what I was doing, come in and talk to me. Mm-hmm. And I was chastised for that. It's like, no, you have to have schedule, and you can't just make yourself available. If they have somebody on the phone and they're trying to resolve a claim, I need to be there for them. If they need to know something, I need to be there for them. Nope. Okay. So I think making yourself available to people that matter is important. It really is. And I understand about the connection thing, because I have somebody that's in my email that messaged me about being on the show, and that's fine. But then they are just like, I almost want to say bullying. And it's mm-hmm. like, I don't want to deal with you. I almost just want to say, I'm going to block you and I'm done. Mm-hmm. And, there's a way to talk to somebody, but there's a way to be too pushy.
Wow. You know what? See, what I heard is, I almost wanted to go into my interview hat, because I was like, let me turn this around, because what I heard you say was, I almost wanted to block them. And then my response is, again, it's too easy for me to practice the art of non-attachment. If this person is not respecting my bounds, my boundaries, my thoughts, or whatever it is, I have no problem just blocking someone and removing that person from my life. I learned to love everyone, but I also have learned to love certain people from a distance. There's nothing that says you can't block that person. There's nothing that says, because obviously this person, and people will say to me, let me just say this, Donna, because people will say to me, they was like, but Sharifah, maybe you should explain this to them. I'm like, no, their mom should explain that to them. Their mom should have taught them basic etiquette, and if a person is just so far out of what I consider basic etiquette, then I know, I'm going to just sidebar for a minute. This is good. This is some good stuff. But in business, even with website designs, I can tell initially when there's somebody who's going to aggravate me. They're going to irritate me. Now, it could be a million different reasons. Maybe this person is slow to respond. I don't know. But it's something that I know this person is going to be a difficult client. You know what I do? I tack on an irritation fee to their cost. And people are like, you are so funny. No, that's what I do. Because if I already know this is going to be a difficult situation, then I make it a certain price so they can be like, you know what, that's too much money. I don't want to work with you, Sharifah. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, But if they do, at least I'm compensated for that irritation. But it's just empowerment for me to know that I am the one at the end of the day that's responsible for my happiness. So if there's someone that I feel feel that doesn't need to be in my circle, they won't be in my circle.
Well, and the only reason, I'll be honest, I've blocked people. I don't have a problem blocking people. I've done it before. However, it's one of those moments where I don't want to shoot myself in the foot because he is a higher profile person. He has a good bit of followers, but it's also like, I'm going to be blunt, you're an ass. So do I really want to deal with you? Because are you going to be a bully when I'm sitting down to talk to you? And if that's the case, well, then what's the point?
Yeah, but Donna, that to me is all that still just being nice and being and looking at it to say, well, I might need this person in the future. And I'm the kind of person that has to work on myself because I am known for burning bridges. Like I'm burning the whole bridge because this is somebody who I already know is their energy. We don't resonate the same way. We're not on the same path. And I don't want that kind of energy around me. And one of the things that you find if we use the term and we accept the term assholes is that most people, if this person is truly an asshole, most people already know they're an asshole. They know that. And so somewhere along the line, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 50 years from now, this person will get a reputation for being an asshole. That's how you see a lot of those Me Too movements. And you go, okay, how did, it take 30 years for this to come up about this person? It's not that it took 30 years. Everybody knew it for 30 years. It just got to a point where the collective decided we're done with dealing with your shenanigans.
True. Very true. Because everybody knew about the casting couch in Hollywood's casting couch since the days of Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly.
But everybody's like, oh no, everybody, it's been there. It's been there.
Yes.
We just did not want to admit to it. It's like, you can't sit there and say that we haven't had issues with sexism, racism, that all that went away, because it didn't. It never did. We like to believe it did, but it never did.
Yes. One of the things I heard about Bill Cosby, not to be specific, but I'm just using this as an example, is I've heard several people, my background is entertainment. I'm the CEO of IT TV Network. I'm in entertainment, but I've heard several people say in regards to Bill Cosby that his situation was a known secret. Like, what is a known secret? It's like a secret everybody already knows. So I look at that as the same way as dealing with difficult people. I love to go on the record of saying, this is how this person behaves. Not just me too. I'm just saying in general, this is how this person behaves. And I consider that behavior unacceptable. It's unacceptable, period. I don't have to accept it because I do a lot of what I consider with my talk shows philanthropy work. Other people may not consider it that way, but that's what I consider it. I'm volunteering my time. I'm giving, I'm talking, I'm helping, I'm supporting entrepreneurs. So I'm not going to volunteer and get, I was trying to find a nice way to say shit on. How do you say that nicely, Don?
I don't think there is really crapped on.
Yeah, okay.
But it's fine. You can say whatever. Cursing is not off limits, okay?
But you understand what I'm saying, though. It's like, I'm trying to help you, and you're making it difficult for me. The younger Sharifah, oh my God, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to, nope, not now. Like, no, you either going to behave a certain way or you will not be in my circle. Period.
Well, here's a prime example. Okay, so I was in my mid-30s, and it's my last couple of days at a job. And this guy who I had talked to, who worked in the janitorial department, I was a salesperson. We always joked around, we're friendly and everything. He gives me a card, a going away card, and it said on the outside of the card, naked pictures enclosed. Now, mind you, the guy is about 6 something and he's over 300 pounds. And granted, my husband was a large guy. I'm not going to say that was atrocious, but so he hands me this card and I'm like, this has got to be a joke because, there's no way. And this is in the 90s. I open the card and sure enough, there's like 6 or 7 naked pictures of him. Wow. And I looked at him and I said, who took these? My wife. Excuse me? Mm-hmm. My wife took them for you. What?
Wow.
So at the time, I sat there. I went home. Well, first, before I went home, he had told other girls in the office that he gave me this. And a couple came over and one of the girls complained that he had been messing about, flirting with her and aggravating her. So I went home and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? The next day I went in and reported him, and I brought the pictures to my boss, like the card. He stared at him really long time, the pictures, and I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? But he got fired. Me being the woman I am now, I would have taken the pictures, looked at him and said, you better leave my desk and you better go pack up your desk because I'm going to report you. Because that was inappropriate. And what, I don't care who you are, what makes you think this is a good idea?
No, I definitely agree.
So, I mean, that goes back to the Bill Cosby thing, because it's like, well, it's an open secret. And apparently it was an open secret at work that he was doing this with several different women, maybe not the naked picture part, but the harassing.
People only do what you allow them to do. Business, personal, otherwise, people will only do what you allow them to do. And my whole thing is, I don't try to control anyone. Just do it over there. Like that's my whole thing. It's not something that I'm willing to accept. It's not something that I want to be a part of. You know, however you handled it, whether you told him initially or you told the boss later, he still got fired.
Yeah.
That was the end result. But the most important thing is you didn't allow this behavior to continue. You stood up for yourself and you said no. And I'm very happy, especially in the 90s, that he actually got fired, because a lot of times what they do is they go, oh, well, it's just a joke, or, you know, that's just Jim being Jim. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like so disrespectful to women. But I'm just so proud that in 2021 going into 2022, we have been able to see so much more respect given to women than ever in the history of, I think, ever.
Well, in 2006, one of my coworkers at the insurance company, the president of the company had made inappropriate remarks to her. She ended up getting a settlement for it, and she kept her job, but he kept his job as well. Because, you know, he's a good old boy and he was just being him.
Yes.
But I think sometimes we still have those moments of boys just being boys. And I don't understand why we get away with that. You know, if we were to, women are still deemed a slut if you dress a certain way. But guys can do whatever. And if a guy is sleeping with multiple women, if a woman were to do it, then she's deemed a whore. Excuse my language. But why is the double standard still there?
Because we allow it. I mean, it's a simple answer. It's because we allow it. We've always allowed it. It's not something that it started when these men were 30 or 50 or 72. It started when they were 2. It started when they were 4. You know what I mean? When they were doing 7, 9, when they were doing things that weren't that appropriate, or maybe the men around them were doing things that were inappropriate and they just grew up with it. And it's things that people just looked at and said, that's just boys being boys. But I believe as a society, we have changed that view. You know, I remember going in meetings, executive level meetings, where again, I'm an executive and I go to meetings and being told, well, I just want you to sit there and look cute. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You know, that is so insulting. It's so demeaning, you know, but what happens is we have to change as a society. What most people don't understand in business, for a long point of history, the majority of successful business owners were men. But they usually had about, 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 secretaries, which were all women. And those women made him look good. So these men had a habit of looking down on those women in business. The only thing that changed really was technology. And as a society, we decided that we wanted equality for women. And so now he can't look down on her because she can use the same experience, the same freedom, the same voice, the same technology to be a business owner as well. So things don't change until we change, until society changes, until somebody says enough. And I think more and more people have said enough. More and more women have went out and started their own businesses and said, you know what? I've been pushing you the whole way. As the secretary, and I've done this myself. I've been that woman behind the man in any company where he doesn't even know what he has to do for that day. He doesn't know his schedule. He didn't write the reports. He didn't build the model for whatever he's doing. He's just the face that goes out and says, this is what my company has done. But it's me or someone like me, myself, who is actually doing the work. And so what happens is we wake up and we go, you know what? Why am I doing the work for him? But that's because society for a long time said, we don't want women in business. We want women at home, barefoot and pregnant, or we want them to be the secretary, the quiet person behind this man. In these times, they are a change.
Well, and there's 2 points I want to make. I want to go back to the comment you made about they learn when they're 2 or 4. I can remember being on the playground when I was a little kid and boys running up trying to kiss you without any yes, any consent, just trying to kiss you. And, the one thing that men are waiting for now is for, and as it was with Bill Cosby and stuff, the known secret. Women won't have that luxury if they try to act on hitting on their underlings, because they'll be crucified. Look at her behavior, even though, because, and then there's the comment of a man can't be raped or sexually assaulted, but they can. So there's this whole there, as soon as a woman screws up, they're going to be, dare I say, crucified. And as we change these times, it's like we're going to swing back and forth a little bit until we come to a nice, even place, hopefully.
You have to have balance. I mean, you have to have balance in everything that you do. I don't just look at it as women not being crucified, or men not being crucified or crucified. I think that we have to have respect. When you have respect at the base or the heart of anything that you do, then you eliminate a lot of these issues. I've been in different companies where I have been disrespected, and everybody just thinks it's okay. But we have to, as a society, decide that is not okay. Then you'll get a different response from people. I think that's the main thing.
Well, and the thing is about management, what a lot of people don't realize is sometimes management, the person will sit there and try to play a head trip on you just because they like the feeling of power. And you can't let that affect you. I remember in one review, because I had my grandmother, I had both my grandmothers after Katrina, and my stepmom had died. So it was a really complicated time. Plus I had some health issues. And I remember going into my review and my boss being up, on her high horse. And I put it on, why I say on her high horse, because she looks at me and my review wasn't that great. And she looks at me and she goes, "So, and you have anything to say?" And I'm like, "It is what it is." And she's like, you don't have anything else to say?" "No, it is what it is. There were certain things that I could not control. Katrina, and there were certain things. So it is what it is. You sure you don't want to say anything?" "Yeah, sure." I left there and I went home and I went to write out a letter. But the fact of the matter is, it was about power. It was about her trying to show her power to me. It wasn't about anything else than that, because she kept being adamant that she wanted me to rebut her. So power struggles happen.
Well, this is what I believe. In every instance, when two people meet, and it's based on the book, The Celestine Prophecy, which is one of my favorites. And I take this aspect from this book. In every interaction between two people meet, there's always a power struggle. It doesn't have to be that drastic, but you always find the person who has the most power in that situation. But what people don't understand is just because you have power doesn't mean that you have to use your power for evil. You know what I mean? Power is a wonderful thing because you have the power, you have the ability to make change. And I say that all the time. Like, there are so many people who should thank God that I use my powers for good and not evil, because that's what I do. I want to use every ability, every ounce in me to make this world a better place. Like, I believe in world peace. Anytime I'm asked that question, I feel like I'm in the beauty pageant. They're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "World peace." Like, I just want peace on earth. But I use my power and my abilities in every connection, every speaking engagement, every show, so that we can all have power. I mean, all be happy. But what happens is, in order to have peace on earth, in order to have, world peace and happiness, you have to have equality. So again, that's what you were talking about. She was trying to use her power against you. She was trying to use her power to get what she wanted, as opposed to saying, "Donna, how can we make this situation work for everyone, for both of us?" But I believe, again, because I don't know if I'm an idealistic person, but that as a society, we are, especially after a global pandemic, we're waking up to that idea that we are all one, waking up to this information and this knowledge that we are all connected. Because if I hurt you, amazing Donna, then I'm going to be hurt as well. we're connected. We're one, because my pain that I may inflict on you, you may use that pain to inflict on a whole bunch of other people. And then guess what? The world goes to hell in a handbasket. So if we understand, that's the whole philosophy of the butterfly effect. I believe in all these different terms and theories, but if I'm inflicting pain, it's going to come out somewhere and it's just going to snowball from there.
Well, and the simplest word to use for what she was doing was she was trying to demean me. And if you have to make yourself feel better by demeaning somebody else, then you're not being positive. You're being a negative force, and that's going to come back at you. If we're talking about beliefs, anything you put out there is going to come back to you eventually, and it may not be good. It may be very bad. And one book, The Soliciting Prophecy, I read it, and it's an amazing book. And another book that I really highly recommend is The Alchemist.
I love that one as well. Yes, yeah. I consider myself an alchemist. That's what I do.
Nice.
Even with the shows. I mean, do you notice that? And you, of all people, would notice that. But that's what I look for and what I think about when I host a roundtable talk show is alchemy. You take a little bit of this and you put it with that and you blend it with this and you mix it all together. And now you have a show with all these personalities and energies. I love it.
And it's a rare gift to be able to do that, because not everybody can do that. Not everybody can. I have found by doing this, and I've been told by other people, it's like not everybody can sit there and talk to a person for an hour, much less over an hour. So to be able to put multiple people together, which I've hosted like book chats that way, it's an intriguing thing, because you have to be willing to engage your audience, and not only your audience, but the guest on the panel, because sometimes, especially when you're dealing with authors, they're not always as forthcoming. Mm-hmm. Because they're more, they love the written word, but the verbal word, they're not always so outgoing.
But you know what? I receive that when you say it's a gift, and it is. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's also very intellectual. It's something that I have studied. It's an art form to it. Mm-hmm. One of the things that people say is, Sharifah, you're a great host. You're a great interviewer. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But if you listen to most of my shows, the one question that I ask more than any other question is, Donna, what do you think about that? Yeah. And what most people don't realize is the average person never, ever gets asked, what do you think? In fact, it's the exact opposite. From the time they were born, from the time they began to speak, there was someone in their life, for the most part, who said, nobody cares what you think. Nobody cares what you think at all. There was some point in their life, maybe it was at their job, maybe they were working at McDonald's, or Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it was. And they were like, you know what? I think the mouse is too loud. And you know what their boss said?
Sit down
Nobody
and shut
cares
up.
what you think. Right? That's what they said. Yeah. Nobody cares what you think. Sit down and shut up. Right? Children are to be seen and not heard. So it's a very rare opportunity for people to actually, first of all, ask themselves the question, what do I think about this situation or about this conversation? And then to have someone else ask them, what do you think? So it's amazing to me. And one of the reasons why I have the pre-show conversation with the guests prior to starting the show is I'm giving them the permission to speak. I'm giving them permission to share their thoughts. And because they're already aware of the fact that they have permission, I mean, maybe they didn't need it, but because they know they have permission to ask questions, because they know they have permission to speak, guess what they do? The most introverted person will begin to speak. And because you have 5 different people, I always notice who is more introverted, who is more extroverted. My extroverted people, I never worry about. I'm like, oh, Donna's going to talk. I don't have to worry about her. So I try to get a feel for my guests. But the introverted ones, I'm like, that Donna over there, she's a little shy. So you know what I do? I ask direct questions, and I usually leave the introverted people for last. So I start with the extroverted people, and then the introverted people, again, subconsciously, they begin to see, oh, I have permission to speak. And that's how Becky did it, and that's how Jim did it. And now, guess what? By the time you get to them, this quiet, introverted author who never has anything to say now is talking, and you're like amazed. And I just had to laugh because I did a mixer last month, and at my mixers, everyone speaks. Everyone gets an opportunity to speak and to introduce their business. And so sometimes people don't expect to speak. They expect to come to a mixer and just listen to speakers. And I'm like, no, everyone speaks. So at the last one, there was this one woman, and she was funny. She was last. So everyone else had spoke, and she almost like fought me tooth and nail. She was like, I don't know what I can say, and I don't know, and I never talk about my business, and I don't know, and I don't really talk in front of people. And I said, you came to this mixer because you have a business. So that means you want to talk about your business. How are we going to learn about your business if you don't speak? This lady got up and spoke, and I had to fight her to get my mic back. And I literally said that. I'm like, lady, like, you didn't want to speak. Now you all been rambling on for like 10 minutes. Can I have my mic back? But it's just really giving people permission, because once they have the permission, you'll see they'll just fly.
Well, there's 2 points to that, because I remember I went to the city council meeting, which I've never gone to a city council meeting, but I was being politically active in regarding an issue. And there was 2 rows of people in front of my husband and I, and nobody got up when the motion came that they wanted to hear comment. I'm like, okay. I said, and then they get halfway down our aisle, nobody gets up. I'm like, all right, fine. I got up there, I spoke. As soon as I broke the ice, then everybody else started speaking. But the other point, and it came to me while you were talking, yes, I've discussed a couple of times on the show the whole sit down and shut up with kids. We don't care about what you said. And it made me think about something, because, my husband was always asking me, so what do you want for dinner? I'd be like, I don't know. And then he would name something like, I don't want that. And he'd tell me, you know what you don't want. But the truth of the matter is, when I think about it, is when you're a kid and somebody asks you, what do you want for dinner? You're not asked really, what do you want for dinner? Most of the time you're like, you're getting this and that's it. So we don't have the opportunity to make that choice. So it becomes kind of a thing when we're asked, what do you want? Since we weren't given that choice or taught how to make that choice as a kid over something as simple as a meal, how are we able to make choices as adults clearly? And I mean, that's something that you learn. And I'm not saying that I can make my own choices. I can. But it's just something that if you really start unpacking things, and I talked to somebody earlier this week, and he's like, we start learning how to be a person like when we're 2 months old.
Right.
So it's just amazing how you start unpacking all this. And it's like, whether you realize that there's a lot of ingrained behavior from childhood.
No, I definitely agree. And, it depends on your childhood and how you was raised. It made me laugh because it reminded me of a conversation my son and I had actually the other day. My son is 24, and we were trying to decide what to have for lunch. So again, I'm trying to empower my son. So I say, son, make a decision. You're the king. You have the power. So my son says, I want Subway. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And he's like, what happened to being the king? What happened to having the power? And I'm like, well, you do have the power. I just have veto power. You know what I mean? Like, I'm mom.
I am Empress Mom. So therefore, right. I have the hierarchy. Sorry. But you got to make a choice, so applaud yourself.
Right, bravo. Choose something else.
So you have big plans for the future, do you not?
I have big plans for right now. Everything I'm doing is miracles and magic happen in the moment. I'm making miracles and magic happen.
Are you thinking about running for political office?
Absolutely. 2024. I'm running for Senate in 2024. It's exciting. I ran for city council in March of 2020. They wouldn't give me city council, so I took the round table. But now I'm ready to go back out there, because one of the things I learned through being a candidate is that no matter who likes you, who agrees with you, who disagrees with you, they have to hear you. And that was like just freeing, that I could just go and say whatever, I wanted to say, because they have to appear or give the appearance of being unbiased. So if there were candidates, they had to hear the points, the platforms, from the views from all the candidates. So I'm like, this is fun. This is interesting, because after being laid off 8 times, I'm passionate about job creation. I'm passionate about homelessness. I'm in Long Beach, California. What most people don't know is there are a lot of states in the country where if you are homeless, they will buy you a one-way ticket to California. They'll buy you a one-way ticket on Amtrak to California, because they know in California you may be homeless, but you won't freeze to death. I'm in Long Beach. Our weather, when I start to get cold, I'm like, ooh, it's 70, 65, we're always warm. So if you go lay out at the beach or go hang out somewhere, you are not going to die. And a lot of homeless people, what other people don't understand is some of them may have some kind of income. That's shocking to people. I'm like, you don't understand this homelessness, how this works. But they may be getting, $700 a month for, through the VA or whatever their benefits are. But in California, especially where I am, I was about to say a one bedroom, but a studio may cost you $1,200. So,
a studio here in Harvard, which is a small town in Illinois, is $850.
Right. So if you let's just go with the 850. You're getting $600 a month, but your studio is $850. So you're already in a deficit. So that means you haven't paid for a cell phone, you haven't paid for a car, you haven't even bought food yet. Right. Mm-hmm. So people go, okay, well, you know what? I'm in California. I'm not going to die. I could go to the local gym, pay $24 a month to get a gym membership, take a shower every day at the gym, and I have money to do whatever it is that I need to do. So we have to be able to fix that. So I'm so passionate about helping people and create jobs with a living wage and creating new businesses and entrepreneurs so that we're not stuck in this cycle of homelessness, because I believe it's a problem that can be solved.
I agree. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking about how her relative is in an assisted living, not assisted living. What is the word I'm looking for? Government assisted living. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say Section 8, but something similar to that. Her apartment's $725.
Right.
My grandmother back in 2005 got $600 a month. When she was in government assisted property, it was $175 for her rent, which is cheap, especially. But then she got $9 for food stamps, and then she had heart medication, and she was diabetic, and that's medication. And how do you, she was like, I'm not buying any meat because, and of course I would give her money. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, how does somebody live? And then people will scoff at the homeless people, like, oh my gosh, look at them. Well, it's not their choice a lot of the times. If I have, in order to get an apartment, if I have to have 3 times or 2 times the amount my rent is coming in, and I can't afford to pay for that, how am I going to have a place?
Right.
Yet we look at them as dregs of society. But the fact is, almost everybody is one step away from being homeless if the wrong circumstances applied.
Yes, one paycheck, one circumstance, one accident away from being homeless. I do not scoff at them at all. I look at any homeless person and I say simply, there for the grace of God go I. I could be in that situation. I've lost everything, but I've never lived on the street. I lived at hotels, on couch surfing, the whole nine. But it's a necessity unless you have the ability to be able to take care of yourself. And like you said, when you have to earn 3 times the amount of your income, plus any other expenses that you have, because I've laid it out to people and I'm like, okay, but keep in mind, you still haven't eaten yet. Like you haven't eaten anything because your money is already gone, So it's like, I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to figure out ways. I remember when I was running for city council, one of the other things that changed for me was this whole drug situation. I was talking to this gentleman who was homeless, and he was talking, and he was just all over the place. I was like, ooh, this guy is tweaking, right? That's what I said to myself. And at the end, he looked at me and he goes, Sharifah, I'm on drugs, but I wasn't when I became homeless. And he was an engineer. And I met this lady who was homeless, and she did drugs. And she said the same thing. Both of these people could be telling me, a tall tale or a story, but it was the commonality. She said she started taking drugs when she became homeless because she didn't want to fall asleep, because she knew if she fell asleep, she would get raped or she would get killed. So she would use different drugs to allow her to stay awake for days and days and days. And I was like, oh my God, you think that most of these situations are basically, okay, somebody's just living life and, let me go take some drugs and have some fun. And all of a sudden they're on the street. A lot of things happen as a result of losing everything, as a result of getting laid off, as a result of losing your job, as a result of Hurricane Katrina, as a result, and then you're trying to maintain it as in whatever this situation is.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, we don't look at it. It's like, even if you look at, okay, we'll look at Social Security for senior citizens. I mean, there's stories now, okay, and I know this for a fact, that so you get your COLA raise, and oh, guess what? So your Medicare is going to go up, your supplemental is going to go up, your rent's going to go up, and oh, whatever else is going to go up, maybe your drugs or whatever, and you're already at a deficit now for that raise you were going to get. And what's really interesting is that some states allow for tax freezes on home ownership if you are VA disabled. However, if you're a regular disabled person, that is not afforded to you. They don't care. Some places freeze seniors' taxes. Other states don't. You get $2,000 discount. So it's very intriguing to see how we kind of, once it's like your usefulness has been served, then we don't care. Here's enough to survive, for you to survive. And I think it was Andrew Yang who talked about a universal income for everybody. And eventually we're most likely going to have to go that way if we have automation take over more jobs.
Right.
So not to get...
We'll see. But we're getting political. This is all politics. Life is politics. That's what I would say when I was campaigning. I'm not about politics. I'm about the people. We helping the people, we the people, and it's a system. I have a friend who is on Section 8. His rent is $11 a month. $11 a month. And I told him one day, I said, if I was you, I'd just pay the rent for the entire year. And he was like, well, I can't. I'm like, what do you mean you can't? He was like, I can't, because if you pay the rent for the entire year, then they got to figure out where you get this money from. And obviously you don't need help if you have the ability to pay the rent for the entire year. So I'm like, wow, like this whole system, there's so many different rules and guidelines. And if you make too much money, and if you do this and you do that, and if you want to move, you got to give 3 months notice to move. I'm like, you know what? I just work.
I saw something today about if you're on disability and you marry somebody that is an able working body person, that you can lose your benefits.
Yes. Because
this person can take care of you. And it's like, so because you're married, but that was your income it's weird.
I just think we need to find better ways to take care of people. I believe that the way we handle things in the United States is a disgrace, especially now I look at job creation and homelessness, but where I'm really adamant is medical care. You know what I mean? I believe that there's no reason in the world that a person should not be able to receive some type of medical care as well as the medicines that they need. When your medicines are $2,000 a month and your income is $200 a month, you can't afford your medicine in order for you to live. I believe that Medicare, all medical needs should just be taken care of. That's me. I believe a person should never have to go without. A person should never die, literally, because they couldn't afford the medication that they need to live. Now, also, in addition to that, believe that medicine should be more reasonable. Okay, really, like it's $1,000 for that pill. It's highway robbery. And I just think as a society, as humans who understand that we are all one, we are all connected, whatever I do to the least of them, that's what we need to understand.
And I think, I totally agree with you. The Medicare for all thing, well, I think I think we really need to Medicare is great. Don't get me wrong. When my husband was on it because he was disabled, when he was on Medicare and he had heart surgery, because we had a supplemental, we had no out of pocket. But this was $141,000 surgery that Medicare reduced down to $17,000. So if you can reduce it that much for somebody on Medicare, why is the general person, why do we have, hey, you got a job, you got to pay this. Hey, you got to pay this. I mean, there's got to be some way to even out the playing field.
I mean, I hear you and I agree with you. on that to a certain extent, because my extent is, why should either of them have to pay? This is a human being.
Yes.
Right? Like $17,000, because I don't know how you came up with $17,000, but if I need it.
We didn't. Our supplemental paid for it, but we have to pay for supplemental.
Right. Exactly. So just people, it's just, to me, that's outrageous. That's outrageous. I believe that we should value human life so much more than we value the almighty dollar. And I believe that's one of the main things that's wrong with society. We should take care of our people, take care of our senior citizens, take care of our vets, take care of our children, take care of our women. And we're not taking care of anyone. The only ones who are achieving anything are the people who are getting the $140,000 to do this surgery to save a man's life.
You know what? And this was shocking. The other day I was on TikTok, which I don't go on very often, so I guess it was about a month ago now. Germany is running ads to help feed the poor kids in America. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with watching those videos about feeding people in third world countries. And now Germany is considering us a third world country, basically, which in a way we are. We have such a homeless population and we are failing on so many levels. How do we succeed? How do we? And I think you're right. I think we just need to look at everybody as a human and start working as a group instead of being so divided.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was reading this article. Actually, I began to notice trends. I like looking at trends and patterns. And I said, why all of a sudden do you keep hearing this word narcissist? They're narcissists. They're a narcissist. This is narcissism. There's some narcissism. And so when I start to hear certain things and question it, because anybody who does anything that's just wrong, people are like, oh, he's a narcissist. I'm like, you can't just diagnose people just like that. But then I Googled it because I was like, why is this happening all of a sudden? And I found this article, and I can't say if it's accurate or not, but I believed it. What it said was the reason there's a rise in the term narcissism is because we have gone from a society that focused on us and we to a society that focuses on I and me. And so when we realize, again, I keep coming back to the same point, we are all one. We are all connected. And if we have other countries that are basically coming up with money for us, they understand that we are all one, that we are all connected, and you have to help everyone. You have to help the least of them. Unless you're able to help the least of them, nobody rises. So we have to stop looking at this as, what does this do for me? Or I got to make my money, but Donna better get hers. It has to, how can we rise together? How can we help each other? How can we heal each other? Because that's the most important thing. Second example, my son was so grateful yesterday. I took him to pick up his car from the mechanic. He was like, thank you, Mom. Just appreciate you. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. You being grateful. And he was like, yeah, because you didn't have to say yeah. And I said, son, I always want people to say yes to me. Right? Mm-hmm. So why say no to other people? Because people remember if you're the kind of person that says yes, or you're the kind of person that says no, if you're the kind of person that is only focused on myself or, what I need or what I'm going to get, people notice it. They may not tell you that they noticed it, but they noticed it. And I always want to be a giver. And I've always said to people, I would rather get used by 20 people to not help one person that genuinely needs my help, because that's the most important thing to me. And I believe that for whatever you give, you will be blessed tenfold. Just meeting you, Donna, I have been blessed tenfold. I've been blessed more than I can even imagine. Why? Because I met a new friend. I met someone I could share my life journey with and conversations with. So it's a blessing to me. You're a blessing to me. Just like you said, it was a gift to be able to do my show. This is a gift for you to give to me an hour of your time. I think that's amazing. And I'm grateful.
But you're an amazing person. And I mean, I got to meet Robert, he's an amazing guy too. So yes. You've enriched my life already. And I look forward to our friendship growing. The thing about it is, and I want to circle back to the financial aspect of things. We value things. And here's the funny thing about valuing things, whether it be this house or this chair I'm sitting, whatever. I remember my father-in-law telling me that when he bought his first house, it was $17,000 in Wheeling. And when he sold it, it was $100,000. But what changed to make that value You know, that's the funny thing about money is money. We value property and we say, this is worth this much. Who said, oh, because of the demand? Why do we, you know, and what about a human life? Well, you know, that's not it. You're disposable. You can work until you drop. You're disposable. We can replace you. But here's the thing, that person has a lot to give. That person is an individual where things are just things. And
Absolutely.
Why do we value them? I mean, some of them I get because, yeah, there's a memory attached to it, but most of it doesn't have that. And the younger generation is actually looking more at experiences now than just things.
Absolutely.
And there's power in that.
Yes, it is.
So we've been talking for about an hour. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
No, not at all. I think I said everything I wanted to say and then some. But I think if there's any takeaway that I want someone to take away from this experience, this conversation, this show, this interview, is that you can be the change you want to see in the world, because we're all connected. We're all one. We all have the power. We just don't always use it.
This is very true. And it's time that we find our power if we're not using it and step up to the plate.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time.
You are so welcome.
Sharifah is a pretty amazing lady, and I'm glad I got to meet her on the Roundtable Talk Show. I think, you know, her Senate run, you know, as she says, she is for the people, and all of us seeing each other as individuals is important. We are all human and we are all connected. And that is what needs to be appreciated. While we are individuals, we are a collective, and we need each other and we need to support each other. And that is something that is very important for all of us to remember, because even though we may have differences in religion and politics, we all have the same blood flowing through us. And, you know, dare I say, talking to the neuroscientists before, we all have that connection. You know, we go back to Star Wars and the Force. It's the same kind of thing. We all are connected, and it's time that we all embrace that connection and not be so divisive. We need to find some common ground. And once we do, look out, because as a united front, we can be the change. We can make the change. And it starts with you being willing to make changes for yourself, for the people around you, and for your city or your town. That's how it starts, by helping someone else. So if you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can drop me a line at donna@better2podcast.com. If you have some questions or comments, same email applies. We also have all the episodes on www.better2podcast.com. That's www.better2podcast.com. There you'll find all of our social links, as well as the Patreon account. So once again, as always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you have a great day. And I'll catch you next time. Bye. This episode of the Better 2 Podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. You are listening to the Better 2 Podcast with DM Needham.